can I start the session now?
Yes, Diksha, please go ahead. Wishing you all the very best.
So, hello everyone, good evening, and Jai Shri Krishna. So, it is my honor to welcome you all to this valuable session that is organized under the National Webinar Series in collaboration with the Youth and Community Empowerment Council YCEC and the Equitable Parenting Council, that is EPC, of the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, that is WICI. So, now I'm sharing my screen. Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Yes, dear.
So, I welcome all the participants to this session. So, this is a national webinar series in collaboration with the Equitable Parenting Council and Youth and Community Empowerment Council. So, the theme of the national webinar series is child safety. And today, on the third episode of this series, we will be focusing on the crucial topic of sexual child safety. As Nelson Mandela once said, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. This means how we protect our children shows our true values. These words reminds us of the vital importance of our today's session. So, our goal through this session is to spread awareness, educate ourselves and others, and discuss various strategies to prevent child sexual abuse and supporting spreading awareness regarding this issue. So, moving forward, I would like to introduce our guest of today's session. So, our first guest is Dr. Herbi Arora Rai. So, she is the founder and president of G100, All India's lead Women Economic Forum, Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and She Economy. So, now I would like to move forward with our second guest, that is Momita Chakravarti ma'am. She is our national president of Women of Youth Community and Empowerment Council. And I would like to highlight that this initiative is led by ma'am. She is an Indian entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Destination Tours and Travels, humanitarian travel blogger, YouTuber, mental health mentor, political observer, passionate singer, photographer. She has been facilitated with the Young Achiever of the Year 2022 award at India's Most Trusted Brand of the Year 2022, which is held in New Delhi on 30th April 2022 under National Business Leadership Award 2019 for Destination Tours and Travels. Now, I would like to introduce Hazel Marcus Mann. She is our national president of Equitable Parenting Council of WICI. She is the founder of GPS for Parents, School and Parent Mentor, International Baccalaureate Scholarship Awardee, Best Young Principal Awardee in 2020, and she is the queen of curriculum development and English. Now, I would like to all know about myself, that is Diksha Chaurasia. My name is Diksha and I am a National Council member of YCEC Wiki. I am a management student and a volunteer at National Service Scheme. I am a child protection activist and I am a social worker and I am working in the field of child protection. So now I want to highlight that this webinar series is an initiative of Miss Momita ma'am and Azel ma'am. Their dedication to this cause is truly inspiring, and we are grateful for their leadership and efforts in organizing this event. And we are honored to have our three esteemed speakers for today who have dedicated their lives to educating for the safety and well being of children. And they will share their insights, experiences, and strategies to help us better understand and gain knowledge about today's topic, that is sexual child safety. So, before I introduce them, let me remind all the participants that your participation is very crucial throughout this webinar. So, feel free to raise any questions that you might have for any of our speakers. And after all the speakers have presented, there will be a dedicated time for all the participants to ask their questions. So, with this, now I would like to introduce our very first speaker, that is Dr. Anisha Mehndrakar ma'am. So, Dr. Anisha ma'am is from Bangalore, India. She is the founder and director of New Age Therapist. She is a trained and qualified psychologist and trainer and had completed her graduation in counseling psychology. She is also a National Council member of YCC Wiki, and we are really grateful to have you in our council. So, ma'am, now I would like to invite you to present about today's topic and facilitate the discussion further.
A very good evening to everyone. So today's topic is we are discussing about child sexual safety, and this is a topic which is something I have been working on for more than a decade. So when we talk about child sexual safety, the first thing that comes to our mind is little children, and especially girl children. Correct? But as per our national statistics, we need to understand that it is not just the girl children or the female children who are actually in what we call as trouble or in a sensitive case. It is more of boys who tend to get abused rather than young girls. It is common knowledge that most of us think that it is the girls who are always in danger, who are always vulnerable. But in reality, anybody, any little child, especially below 10 years, comes under what we call as a vulnerable category. So, according to the Indian government, anybody below the age of 18 is considered as a child. And any kind of a sexual abuse or any kind of abuse with a sexual intent is called as sexual abuse for a child. So, coming to what we can do as adults and as parents is instead of, bifurcating the children or categorizing them as girls and boys and then seeing what you can do to keep them safe, I would suggest that as a rule, we make sure that we treat all the genders the same way and we safeguard both our young boys and young girls. Right? It starts off with a basic sense of building a trust or a bond with your child. A lot of times when we see cases on sexual abuse and we realize that the parents are the last ones who are actually aware of what is happening with the children. In India, that seems to be the trend. So a lot of you might ask questions, why is it so? How is it that parents are the last ones to know? Is because first point, when children share about something uncomfortable, parents sometimes don't respond adequately. I'm not saying properly, I'm using the word adequately because we are sometimes so busy with our regular obligations, our responsibilities, we fail to recognize small signs and symptoms in our own children that they are probably distressed. For example, let us say you're in a get together in your house and your friends and families have come over. There are no strangers. And what we do as normally as Indian parents to a large extent, we encourage our children to socialize with our family and friends, correct? And a part of that encouragement is where you ask the child to forcibly talk, to forcibly interact. And sometimes children are made to sit on the laps of adults. You can see that the child is very uncomfortable. Right? As a parent, you notice that my child is not very happy doing this. But still, we force, don't we? Yes, mothers and fathers over here. We think that by doing that, we are teaching the child to be nice, to be sociable. But reality, the psychology here, what the child understands is even if I am uncomfortable, it is okay That is the ideology children learn. So when they feel uncomfortable in unfamiliar places, when there is probably any kind of an abuse or a harm that is being done on the child, especially of sexual intent, it is in the same kind of discomfort that the child feels. But because we have told this to our children before, saying that it is okay to feel a little uncomfortable, children learn to keep their mouth shut. So, my request to all the adults over here is do not force children to socialize. Right? As adults, we don't like it when we are forced to talk to somebody. As adults, we don't like to be in certain situations. And we are putting a helpless child into that situation, thinking that it is okay. It is not okay because this teaches our children that feeling uncomfortable, feeling discomfort in social situations is considered normal. This should not be considered normal. Yes, you can probably encourage the child to talk, to introduce, but anything connected with physical proximity is not a good idea. Right? So, that is the first point I would like to bring across, because I'm going with this more from a cultural perspective, because otherwise, sexual abuse is something that most of us are aware of as a term. But how does it start? Sexual abuse doesn't happen overnight. Suddenly, one uncle, one auntie doesn't do something. It's a process, and this process is what we call in our psychological terms, we call it as grooming. Grooming means they make the child ready. They make the child mentally, physically ready to accept this kind of an action or abuse into their life. It starts with talking very nicely to children. It starts with probably gentle touching, gentle hugging, kissing, and all this normal, what we call as signs and symptoms, or the way when you show love to someone, right? It starts with that. And 90% of the times, when a child says that he or she has gone through some kind of a sexual assault or sexual abuse, it is by a known person. But instead, what we are teaching our children is we are telling stranger is a danger, right? That's what we normally say. Unknown uncle, unknown aunties are not good enough. But in reality, it is the known people through which children experience a lot of this. So, what can we teach instead? What can we teach our children instead? Instead of saying don't go to strangers and all of that, we can say that the moment you feel uncomfortable about anything, please come and tell it to me. And once the child tells it to you, you please take action towards it. So starts with, you do not push our children into uncomfortable social circumstances. Two, you encourage the child to recognize what is uncomfortable and talk about it. Now, why am I stressing so much about children being uncomfortable and reporting is there is something called as body intuition that is there in all of us, right? Something in your body tells you that this is not right, something is going wrong. I'll give you an example. A lot of ladies in the room today, right, were listening and all of that. So, ladies, let's imagine right now, this moment, you're not in this webinar, but you're probably standing outside on the side of a street, okay? And you're probably waiting for your Uber, your Ola, or whatever. And while you're waiting, there is somebody in the corner of the street who's looking at you. 9 out of 10 times, as a woman, you're able to identify if that person has a good intention or a bad intention towards you just by the way they are looking or the fact that they are there. Correct?
Yes.
Is there any logical explanation to this? Most of us be like, I don't know, I just feel it. Now, what is this feel? This is called body intuition. How strong it is there in you, 9 times stronger it is there in young children. So when a child says, I don't like this uncle, I don't like this auntie, please pay attention. I'm not saying that they're potential abusers. Please, let's not jump to that conclusion. But all we have to do is acknowledge that my child is feeling insecure, my child is feeling discomfort, it's feeling uncomfortable in this. So please take action towards it. Make sure the child is out of that situation. By doing these small things, what do? We build what we call as a trust or a bond with that child. So now the child knows that next time I say anything to this person will actually take charge and will control the situation or change the situation. This makes it feel relaxed. So whatever happens in the child's life, even, I mean, it need not be something as serious as sexual assault, but something as simple as I'm feeling bad, I'm not feeling good enough, I have a secret to tell, they will happily come and share with our parents. In India, a lot of times we fail to do this, correct? We always think that parenting is a tough job. Yes, it is a tough job because you're bringing up a tiny human being. But most importantly, we forget that as the child grows, the dosage of love at home should increase. But what do we all do? We decrease it. So if you remind yourself the last time you had a conversation with your children, no matter how young or older they are, it would have probably been a checklist. Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you eat your food? Did you do, I mean, how is your exams? Did you go to your school? Did you go here? Is this done? Is that done? So every interaction a child has with a parent growing up, ever since they are 5 to 7 years old onwards, it becomes a irritating experience because you are not showing I love you there. You're just saying, did you do this? Did you not do this? In your head, that is love because you're preparing the child. But we are human beings, and the aspect of physical touch is very, very important in our lives. So, if children are not hugged enough times, if children are not loved enough times, if they are not told repeatedly that they are important, if they're not given a lot of affirmation and affection, it will make them feel very vulnerable. So, any other adult outside who's not a mother or a father gives a little bit of understanding, gives a little bit of attention, children run in that direction. We're all, hungry for love and affection. So if I don't get it at home, I'm going to go look for it outside. Or the first chance I get it outside, I will run. This is the common denominator we are finding in sexual abuse cases in children. The first question we normally tend to ask children during our counseling process is, how did this all start? Correct? That's what we say. How did this all happen? And when we do the backtracking, what we realize is not that the parents don't love the child, but the parents are not able to show that I love you. Child is not able to understand, right? And it feels that it is constantly questioned. It feels that it's not loved enough. So some uncle, some auntie outside gives you chocolate, talks to you nicely, gives you hugs. You find it very comfortable and you go. And even before the child knows, things become uncomfortable and it starts going through what we call as abuse. And they refuse to talk about it at home because they are scared. They are scared because there is no that bonding that is required between the mother or the parent and the child, where the child feels okay, I can make mistakes and still tell at home. When that bonding is missing, children refuse to talk about it. So, this is in brief as what we as adults can do to keep our children safe. Is first, let us work on our personal relationship with a child. You need not be a mother or a father itself. If you're a responsible adult, you're an aunt, it's your friend's children, you can still have a good relationship with them. Okay, so how do we start having a good relationship? Is you listen when the child talks. I know sometimes they talk a lot, right? And we are having a busy life. So what do we do? Is we give them quality time. What does quality time mean? Quality time is very simple. When a child is talking to you, you give it eye contact and nod a little bit, taking in all the information, like how all of us are doing in the webinar right now. All of us who are on camera, I can see that you're completely focused. You're looking, you're listening, you're taking in information, and you're nodding. This is all you need to do with your children for a few minutes, at least in a day. And then they feel like, yes, I am heard. Okay, that's the first thing. Second, please increase the amount of love that you're giving at home. Love does not mean I'm giving you expensive toys, does not mean I'm saying yes to everything. It just means that you give at least 4 hugs a day to your child. Please do that. 4 times you hug your child. If your child is about 10 or 11 years old, you might feel a little uncomfortable or weird hugging the child, front body to body, because especially of the opposite gender, children are developing. Please give them a side hug or a hug from the back. It works the same. But hugs are important. Don't give hugs because I'm saying so. Like today, I went to a webinar and there was this lady who said, hug your children 4 times a day. So right now it is 8 o'clock. Before dinner, let me hug. Then after dinner, once I'll do it. It's not medicine. Okay, it should come from here, right? See, just remind yourself when you saw this child that you have at home, 15 years, 18 years. Sometimes I would say even a 20, 25-year-old is your child at the end of the day. When you held that child in your hand for the first time as a parent, the amount of love and affection you had, the first 2 years, how you behaved with that kid. The only thing you ever did is cuddle, 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 and love. Now, where did all that love go? Right? So, this is a question. Children notice these kind of things growing up. So make sure that as the children are growing up, your dosage of love increases. Now, when I say that, that does not mean we don't discipline our children. Let's please discipline them. Let's say no, right? Let's do our parenting, but at the same time, the hugs should not reduce. So that we are able to balance. When we balance, children feel comfortable coming and discussing with you, right? So that's the second point. The third point is, can we please focus on listening to the child, because they have their own body intuition which tells them this is right, that is wrong, I don't like this, I don't like that. You don't need to talk about it, about birds and bees and flowers and all of that, when it is very small. The body intuition does it. If there is something uncomfortable, if there is something sexual of nature, where private parts or on the chest, anyone is touching them, or even a lingering touch on the shoulder, children recognize it as young as 2 to 3 years old. Okay, that inbuilt mechanism nature has given us. All we have to do is pay attention to it. Now, a question to the audience: do you know what is the age of the child, the youngest, who has, there's a case that is reported who has been sexually abused? Can you please put on the comment section what was the age of the child, the youngest child who was sexually abused in India recently? Yes. Anybody else? Any other answers? I just saw one answer on my chat. Any other answers? What is the youngest age at which a child was sexually abused? It was a case that was reported in India. I like the way people are giving answers. A couple of months old, right? You fill in the blanks. Yes, our national president is absolutely right. It is 8 months. 8 months is the recent reporting, but there has been cases where children have been 2 months, 3 months. You might think, what kind of a twisted mind is that, right? Who wants to sexually abuse a child as small as, probably that looks as big as your Sprite or your Fanta bottle, right? So this is where psychology kicks in. And when people ask us, ma'am, why do people do this? It is a wiring in the brain to a large extent. Okay, it's how your physical brain works. And to a large extent, their childhood also. When we yell at kids too much, when we scream at them too much, when we are very strict with them, when we try to discipline them too much, like, as if you're preparing them for world domination or to become a world leader, kind of, we create that regime at home, a military regime at home. It kills the part of the brain which is responsible for empathy. There's one part of a brain which activates when you see somebody in pain. Immediately you feel, oh, poor thing, let me go help them out. The empathy center of the brain, right? So the neural connections, the nerve connections to the empathy center of the brain, it starts reducing and almost dying out if you start behaving with a lot of aggression and violence towards a child in its growing years. So, a lot of people, adults, who have become pedophiles today, who have become rapists, and who do assault on children as young as few months old or even a few years old, if you look into the biology and if you look into the way they have been brought up, one is, yes, there is a possibility that the brain wiring system itself is wrong. The other one, to a large extent, is how their childhood was. Nobody showed them the empathy and love that they needed as a child at that time, so they have grown up to be an adult like that, right? So how we treat our own children, how we treat others children, becomes very, very important. With this, I would like to conclude saying that keeping our children safe, sexually safe, is completely in your hands, in the way how you respond to child every time it interacts with you. Yes, I'd like to hand over the stage to our facilitator. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your valuable insights. And it was really amazing to hear you and the knowledge that you shared regarding the topic. Regarding the few points like body intuition and that the dominators of child sexual abuse. And regarding the age factor that you discussed, I remember one of the case when my friend shared her experience when she faced, so I just related with that, and I really think that awareness is really needed for this. And the work that you have been doing in this field is really commendable. So thank you. And now with this, I would like to introduce to our new speaker. Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Yes, dear Diksha. It's absolutely visible.
Okay. So our next speaker is Queen Mercy. So she is a business development manager, a social worker, and the founder of Mug Foundation in Nigeria. And she is also the founder of the African Phenomenon Representative Leaders and G100 Nigeria Country Chair for Human Rights and Dignity Way. And with this great work that she has been doing, we would like to offer her stage, and I would like to invite her to present about today's topic.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Am I audible?
Mercy, welcome.
Thank you. It's 2:58 p.m. in Nigeria. So permit me to say good afternoon everyone. My name is Mercy Ndubisi. I'm speaking from Nigeria. Um, I prefer speaking about child abuse from the part of family members because I'm speaking from experience. But few days ago, I was in a company of some co-workers and I got to find out that most of us, we adults, don't even know what child sexual abuse is. Some just see it as just the sexual part of it without even knowing what and what might lead or what can make a child to be abused or how it tends to start. So I would say sexual abuse is a form of abuse in which an adult or an older adolescent uses a child for sexual pleasure. And these forms of sexual abuse engage the touching and the non-touching. When I mentioned this, my colleague said, what do you mean by touching and non-touching forms of sexual abuse? And I told her that yes, there are actually two forms of sexual abuse. The first part, which is touching, it involves touching a child's genital, making a child touch someone else's genital, playing with sexual game, or putting objects or body part inside the vulva or vagina or in the mouth or in the anus of a child for sexual pleasure. While the non-touching part includes showing pornography to a child, exposing one's genital parts to a child, trafficking of a child, or prostitution. Of late, I had a child speaking to another little child on the street of how the household has been over the years, showing her and the little brother her body parts. And when I heard
Queen
this,
Mercy, Queen Mercy, sorry for
okay,
interrupting, but for some reason we can't hear you clearly, and
can you,
it's just not clear. The voice isn't clear. If you could just check it once,
hello, can you hear me better now?
slightly better. Yeah, it's slightly better.
Okay, I was saying earlier, sorry, it might be my network or my connection.
This is much
I
better
was
now.
trying,
Yeah, please.
okay, I was trying to explain in the basic term what sexual abuse is. Because few days ago, I got into some conversation with co-workers and I got to understand that most of us don't really know what sexual abuse is. Some just see it as when the penetration happens, that is when the abuse starts. So I said I was going to start from defining what sexual abuse is and let us know there are two forms of it, which is the touching and the non-touching. The touching involves touching a little child private parts or letting a little child touch your own private parts. And the non-touching involves in showing a child adult movies and speaking to a child about using adult languages to a child. So that's what I said earlier. And I also brought about a little child I heard on the streets that was speaking to another little child how the house help was showing the little brother her genotype parts. And I had to step in and I had to speak with the mother of the children to let the mother know what the children were talking about. So I speak about child sexual abuse from family members because my family has been a victim. I lost my immediate younger sister when she was 8 years to sexual abuse by my senior cousin who was living with us. So I always tell everyone or anyone that always hear my voice that abuse starts from the home. I really love what the first speaker talked about, that if you listen to the children, if you pay attention to children, abuse starts from the home. The statistics still stands that 80% of sexual abuse is from the home. 10% is friends or family members, and the rest of 10% is strangers. So when we educate the family, when we educate our children, when we educate parents or guardians, or when we talk about sexual abuse, let's always remember that sexual abuse starts from the home. If we go back to statistics or victims or stories we've heard, we find out that this abuse happened in the home. Majority of them happens in the home. So let's not just be quick to tell a child to be careful of an uncle or an auntie. Prefer to speak about sexual abuse from family side because my family has been a victim. So there's a current statistics from Health World Organization that 80% of sexual abuse is from family members. 10% is friends or family members, and the rest 10 is for strangers. So I always advise when we try to prevent sexual abuse, we should start from the home. And as parents, as guardians, as older siblings, let's know that when it comes to sexual abuse, everybody is a suspect. And one of the ways to prevent sexual abuse is get involved with community-based prevention efforts, seek more information about how to prevent abuse, and keep children safe. Protect your own children, support child victims, teach others about child sexual abuse, and report suspected child abusers. From what our first speaker spoke, I love every point she pinned out. She talked about being loved by showing your children that they are being loved at home. And growing up and being an 80 kid or 90 kid, sorry, I know our parents do love us, but they need show it. So because we are not showing that they love us, some of us tend to get those love outside the home. But our first speaker said, show the children that they are being loved. From the previous webinar she went, someone said, call your children 4 times a day. But her own, and she thinks that it's not just hugging your children 4 times a day, but showing it to come from the heart. And I concur totally with that. When you love your children, when you allow them to speak, they tell you everything. Listen to children. There is this old saying that children tend to identify um, bad relations and parents identify fake friends. And it's true. And there are signs of knowing if a child is being abused. First sign is that if the child was a loud one, you see the child being quiet, they withdraw from families, they withdraw from their friends, they become possessive, they have no fear, sometimes around touch, being alone, being with a particular person. I also refer to what our first speaker said. She actually said everything that has to do with abuse. When a child is not comfortable with a particular adult, or a particular environment, they should pay attention to that. Or even when the child is too comfortable or too familiar with a particular adult or an environment, I'll also say pay attention to that. When a child is having difficulty in concentration, always out of mind, being distracted, not listening, these are signs of abuse. Eating too much, sleeping, and hygiene changes, they are signs. Aggressive behaviors are signs. Bedwetting or forgetting how to use the restroom. These are signs of abuse. Sometimes they tend to start drawing out artwork, stories. They also start acting to be a baby or acting abnormal, acting out of place. They are signs of abuse. Um, Another sign that is also recent, though it's not on little babies, but on adolescent children, is self-harm. Of recent, one happened after she spoke about being abused. She ended her life. So self-harm is part of um, signs of abuse. You also see children being and they having frequent mood change, lack of self-control. These are signs of abuse. At some point, I was thinking sexual abuse was kind of an African thing, but having friends around the country, I got to find out that child sexual abuse is a global effect, it's a global problem. So children and young people of all culture, ethnic and socioeconomic background and age can and may be sexual abused. Above all, it is important to pay attention to behavioral change in the children and take them serious. If you disclose or notice any signs of this abuse, don't always be afraid or too timid or too cultural or too religious to keep quiet. You should always speak up. When my little kid sister was killed, when she died of sexual abuse, we are meant to understand that sexual abuse, since it's from a family member, we should keep it quiet and don't tell anyone. We are told is a taboo or a stain on family members. It was years after I got to find out the effect it had in each and every one of us, even when we are not the victims of it. And I began to speak up of family sexual abuse. So when someone abuses a child, family or no family, let's call the person out. It, that can help the victim to recover and to prevent another child from being abused. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your valuable inputs. And as you highlighted various issues, as I heard about substance abuse, and you highlighted various community-based inputs, so that we can end up and we can support to end up this issue. So we are really thankful, but due to technical issues, we couldn't hear you much clear. And thank you for your inputs. As we kept only 15 minutes for every speaker, so it was really difficult to manage. So now I would like to invite our next guest. So our next host is Anupriya Das Singh ma'am. She's a psychotherapist by profession. She's a specialist in EDMR, arts become therapy and play therapy. She's a knowledge for psychotherapeutic interventions for urban NGO.
Thank you so much, Diksha. Shall I begin?
Yes, ma'am, sure. You can begin with your inputs.
Hi, everyone. So, this is Anupriya, and I work with Urban. Um, Arpan organization has been working for this cause, child sexual abuse, for years altogether, more than 15 years, very specifically on things. And we have been focused on prevention and intervention strategies of handling child sexual abuse. Today, what I will do is I will share my experience of working with the cases, working with the prevention part of child sexual abuse, as well as intervention in whatever small time that I have, so that we all can learn from what we have learned and experienced and implement it in our journeys of preventing and healing child sexual abuse. Um, just a small video I would like to show to get a glimpse of what we have been doing. Yeah, I'll just share a video right now. Do let me know if that is visible for you. Is it visible for all of
Yes,
you?
it is. Yes,
Oh,
we can hear the audio as well.
okay.
That was really nice, ma'am. And
Okay.
especially that highlight was Chiska, that e-learning program.
Yeah. That's our mascot, Chisha. So this has been our journey. I've just given a glimpse of this. In the journey, it's not been easy, but the constantly working towards it has given us a lot of learnings on what all we can do as parents and teachers in order to help the child manage the safety and how parents can support on that. um, every child deserves a safe environment, and we all are here for that purpose. We all are present here to basically focus on how else we can help the child. So I'll just give you a glimpse of the personal safety education that is run in schools and communities that Arpan takes care of. um, what we have understood is it's not just it's a social problem, so it cannot just be handled by training the children. We have to look at a lot of spaces. For example, this is one of the beautiful space that you have providing awareness. So what we do is we start with the schools, we and the community. We check the focal point. Suppose if we are beginning with the school, we look at the awareness impart certain sessions, awareness sessions, to the parents, teachers, non-teaching staff, helping them understand what child sexual abuse is, um, what are the signs to look for if there is any child who's facing any uncomfortable situation, how to handle disclosure. That is one important part that we talk about to these support system, because they are the pillars that when the child finally comes to them, they should know how to respond and help, otherwise the child would not come back again. um, After we do that, we are sure that yes, they are able to understand what it is and how to help and how to respond. Then we work with the children. There is a very clear system, lesson plan modules that the child is provided with. A trainer works on certain elements. Now these elements, as parents and teachers, you can actually impart to your children. What we have noticed is certain rules that tend to help. um, you know what is safe and unsafe. We do not talk about good touch and bad touch. We have noticed that good touch and bad touch, sometimes the child takes personally because of the cultural perspective. I am a good boy, I am a bad boy, or girl, or they might just misunderstand the concept. So we look at the safe unsafe concept and connect it to the emotions. So the lesson plans basically talk about um, how what it feels like to be uncomfortable, how it feels like to be unsafe. Can there be times when you are uncomfortable but not unsafe? For example, when you are going to a doctor and doctor gives you injection, you might feel really uncomfortable, but you have people around. What is your emotion? Check your emotion and then see whether it is feeling unsafe. So the children are able to connect safe unsafe with the actions around. Also, if you see, child sexual abuse is a very large continuum. It does not only cater to touching. There are a lot of non-contact forms of abuse, like showing pornography, online grooming, and other several situations. So the feeling needs to be understood, and the child is trained in that space where how you can connect your feelings to anything that is happening, which is making you uncomfortable and unsafe. That is one part. Then we introduce what to do about it. Say no and get away. Very, very clear idea. We introduce the concept of trusted adults. Now, everyone feels that okay, we are the parents, we are the teachers. Possibly the child would trust us and come to us to talk about disclosure. But as Dr. Anisha also mentioned, that it's not always there. The child's mindset might be very different. When we used to counsel, when we are counseling children who have gone through past abuse, we would try to understand what made them not go to their caregivers, what happened, what was going on in their minds. And many of them would say that, oh, I couldn't feel that I would get help. So okay, did your parent not help in the past? What has happened? So they correlated with other situations where they felt that mummy to daatti hai, my mother scolds me, so she will scold me here also. So that kind of parallels children tend to draw, and then misunderstand that while parents might scold you or something might, you might feel uncomfortable about, they will keep you safe. So this concept of safety is introduced with the concept of trusted adults. So helping them figure out, okay, how many trusted adults can we figure out beyond parents? Do we see anyone who in our limited circle, in our external circle, how many do we find? Now the children are very clear about, okay, whenever I have any uncomfortable situation, I have to go to this person. Then this person, suppose I don't get help, it is possible maybe the other person may not understand, we have to be prepared. Then again, this and this is one important concept. Then the third concept that is taught is very important, the concept of it's not my fault. If you see, most of the children who've gone through abuse somewhere tend to blame themselves. uh, if I would have moved the person's hand away, uh, I would have been not abused. If I would have, said no, I would not have been abused. I am responsible for all of this. It's my fault. So the constant reiteration of no, it's not your fault is reiterated in the lesson plans, and it's age group wise. So that's how it tends to help children um, take a idea of how to respond in such situations. So after the whole training has happened with the children, we take individual sessions with every child in the school or community that we are working, a very small individual session, that means one on one, where we basically try to understand if the concepts are clear, if there is any help required, and if they have gone through any past or ongoing abuse situation or any uncomfortable situation. So if you look at a larger spectrum, it's not just abuse that we are looking at, we are also looking at sexual bullying, something that might turn, or grooming stages, something that might just turn into abuse later on if the child is not understanding the present space. So even the bullying part, the child would talk about, oh, I felt uncomfortable, he tends to hit my bum all the time. I don't see it as abuse, but I don't like it. Okay, so we have these set of children who are doing some stuff. Okay, so what we do is these children are then counseled or given therapeutic intervention. There is a set of trained counselors who are focused, who have been trained in trauma focused approaches, for example EMDR, art based therapy. These are very well known trauma processing approaches that can help with PTSD and severe symptoms of trauma. So these children then go through a journey of counseling regularly on a weekly basis by the trained counselors, and heal from whatever has been difficult for them. We also take parent session, because again we are working with children and the child goes back into the same environment where the child was not able to disclose. So we have to build the communication back together, that okay, your mother is your trusted adult, let's come together and figure out a way where we can look at aspects where your mother can respond differently and you also can reach out to your mom. So building that bridge so that future reoccurrence should not happen. That is an important thing. So this is the whole healing journey that we go through in the whole prevention and intervention kind of a module. With different age groups, the responses are very different. What are the key things that we all have found that might just help building better relationships? One most important thing is, while we know that when a child comes to us talking about unsafe situation, and we are very much calm and we are responding as per the response required, this is not the space that the child would come on its own. It's a journey in itself. The building of relationships starts from day one, not when there is a threat of abuse. So as parents, as caregivers, if we include few personal safety dialogues and discussions on day-to-day basis with our children, the child would get very comfortable with the idea that okay, it's not a taboo kind of a thing to talk about, it's just a general thing. If the parent shares their own uncomfortable situation, may not be of sexual abuse, any uncomfortable situation where the caregiver is like, okay, I felt vulnerable, and then I assertively spoke to my people and got help. You see, it's such a beautiful thing and I'm feeling so good. The child would get a clear example of, okay, I am feeling uncomfortable and my parent or my masi or this person is my trusted adult, I can go, because she's also experienced something uncomfortable, but she's come out of it. It's possible. So that's how they would reach out. So daily conversations really matter. Um, Also, some way or the other, repetition of it's not their fault if they ever enter in any unsafe situation also needs to be reiterated. What we are doing is we are building a neural system for a child to understand that okay, currently you are safe, but if ever any situation comes or is about to come, never feel guilty, because guilt will stop you from reaching out. Understand that it's not your fault, it can never be your fault, you are a child, and reach out. Just reach out. um, at the end of this, I would just want to say that, as parents and teachers, it is our duty to create safe and comforting environment for our child, so that the child is able to openly express their feelings and any situation that they are facing very nicely to us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your knowledge. It was really impressive, the points that you highlighted. Like, firstly, that it is never your fault. Because personally, when I also go to take sessions in various slums regarding good touch and bad touch, so I also share a personalized story that this happened to me earlier. So I did this. So when they come up with their stories, so I also give them the message that it is never your fault. So I think we need to be a kid with kid so that they highlight their issues, and the topics that you covered regarding prevention and intervention of child sexual abuse, and various models that you brought up. And the best part was the counseling, that I feel that it is really needed, because being an adult now, I feel that when I was a child, if I would have gotten a opportunity to have a counselor in my life, it would have been much better. Because sharing this for the first time in a social platform, I faced sexual abuse when I was a child. Until now, I am not over it. I feel bad about it, and sometimes I regret about it, that it was my fault. But when I came across children, I saw children. So I really felt that there is a need to spread awareness and inspiration regarding our today's topic. And with this, I would like to say a line of Fred Rogers. He said that anyone who does anything to help a child in his life is a hero to me. And fortunately, today we had the opportunity to learn from all these heroes we have in our session, uh, who are taking action to protect children. And now, as we proceed with the session, we are here to now have an open question and answer session. So all the participants who have their questions can now put up their questions from all the speakers, and you can mention also to which speaker they want their answer. So yes, the platform is all for all the participants. You can bring up your questions.
I think Veena had raised her hands. Veena, do you have a question? Okay, I have a question till the time others come up. My question is, as a parent, as a responsible adult, right? There are children under our care. To, s- However, I think sexual safety or even the term sexuality are things that are normally not spoken at home. Uh, Let alone for creating a bond where we start communicating. So, as a parent or as an individual, how can I become a little more comfortable with this topic of sexual safety? And if there are any resources available either online or so, which I can use it for my own learning before I proceed having a conversation with my child. If any of y'all could share some tips or resources that will help me as a parent to start having a communication?
I can help you out. So I've copy pasted the whole set of resources on the chat box. Arpan has been working in research on what would help children um, heal better, and what are the questions that are asked and how to respond to those questions. Those resources are all freely available on the links that I have sent, as well as on the website if you visit. If you want to impart personal safety education to the child on your own as a parent, even the e-learn module is present. It's exactly similar module, but in the e-form, where instead of a teacher, the parents is a support system who takes the child through the whole process. So if the parent feels uncomfortable to talk about that till they grow their own internal skills to be able to talk, they can take the support of the whole e-learn module, where the Chisa character, if you see one of the things that was, it will take you through the whole journey of safe and unsafe. Another thing, yes, we need to be much more comfortable around talks in relation to sexual safety. We have not been comfortable in using the name of private body parts. One of the things that we teach in personal safety education is name the private body parts, so that the parent is able to understand clearly what is going on when the child tries to communicate. Many times children come and try to talk about, वो मुझे नहीं अच्छे लगते, वो ऐसे बोलते, उधर किधर टच किया. Parent would not get it, because parents have never spoken about the use of private body part. The child is not speaking that word. But if the child comes and very clearly says that वो uncle ने मुझे penis पे हाथ लगाया, the parent would get high alert. There would, because internal feeling is of safety, the parent would want to protect. It's just the communication barrier. So that's what children would learn. And yes, we need to slowly get comfortable with attaching comfort and normalcy to private body parts, just as we have with hands and legs and other things. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I think Momita has raised her hand. Momita, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. And my question is to Miss Anupriya. My question is, Miss Anupriya, that's a great job which you are doing. First of all, congratulations, and I loved listening to your insights. My question is, see, there are different sections of the society, and everybody is not financially capable. However, sexual child abuse happens in almost every section of the society, right? So the people who are not financially independent or are not educated enough, but it
Hmm.
still happens on those classes too. So urban is a very good organization, but there are people who are not well acquainted with the internet and services like that. So how do people reach out to you, or else in case if you are doing any voluntary work, where is it located? If you could share it here, at least
Yeah.
people are there from different sections of the society who at least watch YouTube. So when it will be uploaded there, they can at least get in touch with you through that, even if they do not understand the messages or the links we share with them. So please share those insights.
Okay. So we are primarily
Thank you.
located in Mumbai. We are a huge team of people working with the focus of intervention, prevention of child sexual abuse. We also have a helpline in place. So in any part of India, suppose if they are not able to access the online services or any other space, if they are able to get the phone number, the helpline that is shared, they can reach out to us. We provide counseling through helpline as well. So there are again trained counselors who meet weekly with the child or adult or survivor who has gone through abuse. It's completely free of cost, so monetary concern is not at all there. Another thing that Urban strongly supports is training. So we have a basic counseling module and a advanced counseling module specifically made for working with children who've gone through child sexual abuse. Now, basic counseling module can be taken by any individual who either is a social worker, teacher, or who has any interaction with children. After this training, they will be able to do basic counseling with the children, would be able to stabilize the child, I would say, would be able to provide exact support that is needed to the child. Whereas advanced counseling is majorly made for psychotherapists and psychologists who are trained already in um, who are psychologists, but they need specialized training in trauma focused work. So that is meant for that, so that they can completely do trauma processing. That means all the levels of healing can be done. So yeah, the helpline is open for everyone. If you can, I will put the helpline number also in the WhatsApp group, and if you want to pass on to anyone, they can just
Sure.
reach out and we'll be able to help. Training can be provided. We do all India level trainings because we have partnerships with government schools, and so we go to different spaces and provide how to train personal safety education to children. So we do it with the teachers, we do it with other government staff, so that they can impart the same knowledge. So that's how I would be able to help. I will
Thank
pass on
you.
also.
Sure, thank you so much, Miss Anupriya. And I would be so happy if Azel connects both of us directly so that we can, come up with such initiatives, because you are doing a great job. More power to you.
Yeah.
Also, my dear friend Mercy is also doing the same kind of work in her own country, Nigeria. And
Okay.
Dr. Anisha Mahindrakar, who is our other speaker, the first speaker, she has also recently joined us, and we hope to work together for this great initiative, because this is one of the most crucial things in today's world, and sexual child safety is one of the most important things. So thank you so much. Thank you
I
so
would
much.
I would like to add that I'm also a trainee of Arpan, and hats
Okay.
off to them. They've trained us so well. We go to all the municipal schools, so there's we reach out to the every child, and we are confident, and we lay out the platform for them, that what is right, what is wrong, what is safe, what is unsafe. So we are really grateful to Arpan for their supersonic, fantastic programs.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have a question from you. So, I experienced this situation personally. So, I have few children in slum near my city. So, once they told that their parents have restricted them to go to a certain park to play, as it is unsafe. But being children, they love to play in summers also, so they go on that path. So, there are various situations in which parents restrict children to go to some places, that you should not go there, or you should not follow this means of transport while going. So when something like this happens with them at that places, so they are like, मम्मी पापा ने तो पहले ही मना किया था, अब मैं उनको कैसे बताऊं इसके बारे में. So like, how should a child react to this situation, and how we can help as an adult or an helper to that child to
Hmm.
let this fear go.
This is a very important question, actually, you asked. Thank you so much. So when we are working with majorly, 8th, 9th, 10th children, and they talk about, somebody sent a unwanted video to me, and I was terrified. I will not tell my mother because, she will take away my phone. What tends to happen here is the child feels guilty. The someone else is responsible, but I am getting the punishment of phone being taken away, or my mother will stop me from going and playing because the world is unsafe, but I have not done anything wrong. So that conflict gets them to do these things and not tell their caregivers. So we need to also understand where they are coming from. They are coming from a very pure situation of, oh, I need my entertainment, I need my playfulness. How can a parent look at managing this and helping the child see that, okay, how can you be safe? So if there is a park related situation, when we work with parents, we talk about, while you are creating a safe environment, are you restricting the child's most, innermost needs, the core needs of playing, feeling happy, meeting friends? So will that really help the situation? Because later on it's possible that the child may not come and disclose to you, even though you have provided the best safety methods. Is there a way out to that? Can you have a dialogue and figure this out? So it's a parent's responsibility at first. The second, when we are just working with the child, for example, and the child tells you exactly what the child told you, we talk about, okay, do you remember the concept of it's not your fault? So even if you went again to that space, even if there is something and something unwanted happened, it's not your fault, let's go and seek help, we will cross this together. So we also look at, because children tend to, when we talk about, okay, how will we tell trusted adults, when we are working on that concept, the child talks about, okay, I'll get scolded, maybe I'll be blamed for it, maybe my mother will not understand this. We look at that, okay, this is an unsafe situation you are facing right now, and these are the outcomes, possible outcomes of you disclosing about it. Tell me, will this outcome, will it go beyond that? Ki, okay, while mother scolds you, suppose worst thing happens, mother scolds you, does not listen to you, will she protect you or not? Let's figure this out first. Most children say that no, she will, protect me, however she'll, give me a lot of, sunaigi bot, that kind of a thing. So we talk about, okay, what is more important, let's just cross. And how can we cross? Do you want my help to cross? We both can cross this together. What will happen, suppose if we give a sensitizing kind of a session first to your mother, and then talk about handling disclosure to your mother, prepare your mother that, okay, at night, be open to the child and ask the question, see if the child is open to responding to you. So this is a whole journey we take the child to. The child is open. Many times the child says, okay, Didi, you sit with me while I talk about it. Sometimes the child will say, no, I will talk at night, talk to me after that, and have a parent session. Sometimes the child would say, no, I can't talk this time, na, you disclose, and then I will come. So whatever is comfortable for the child, we work through that, so that the child crosses that space and feels better. And then we work on practicing it in smallest of skills, that means assertive skills. Okay, it's not about only unsafe spaces where you need to disclose, you can disclose at a different level. Let's practice that. Okay, I do not like this food, mama, I want to really tell you, this is the reason, can you help me with this? So the child would start getting confident depending on how the parent starts to respond, and that's how we tend to work through this. To answer your question, it's not your fault. If it's reiterated, the child will find strength to reach out.
And ma'am, in case a child is very introvert and he or she maybe start showing some symptoms, so what can be the symptoms that parents can check, so that they might understood that something like this might have happened with their children? So what can be these symptoms that they can notice in the child's behavior, even if they are not sharing to their parents?
Yeah. So if you want to look out for some, there are multiple symptoms. In short, what I can help you see is, your child. There is always a baseline for your child, that okay, my child is normally itna talkative, this much would be communicative. This is the normal self of the child. Now if you see extreme changes happening in that, either becoming completely withdrawn or becoming completely aggressive, not listening at all, these are the spaces where you might want to look at, okay, what's going on. It may need not be the indicator of child sexual abuse, but it definitely talks about that there is something that is amiss that is happening. So when children are going through a lot, they show extreme tendencies. Either they would just stay isolated, or they would become aggressive, or it might impact studies in exactly opposite ways. Like either they would lose focus in studying, or they would completely focus in studying, which parents start to think, oh my god, my child has become very good with studies. However, emotionally, because there is a lot of pain all other spaces, this is the only space I'm getting validation from my parents, so I'm going to focus on that. That is the mindset. The child is still in pain. That's the dissociative aspect working here. So if you see extreme change in the child's behavior, you would note, you can look at, okay, I need to have a conversation with the child. Very specific ones, if I want to tell you, reenactment could be one of these spaces which are very clear indicators that something sexual is causing it. Sexual reenactment. So for example, if a child starts to talk in the language which is more than the age that of the child, if the child starts to express love very differently, like very different kind of touching the child starts to do because the child is getting it somewhere or knowing from somewhere, then that is the time you need to really sit and talk about, okay, whenever you talk to me, so for example, many teachers talk about it, that this first standard child, whenever she talks to me, she starts to touch here, because internally the child is feeling love towards the teacher. The child has understood, because of grooming of abuse, that love is equal to touching, and that person who has been abusing is fulfilling the need of love of the child. So that reenactment is constantly happening, and that is a catch somewhere for you to look into.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
I want to present to Queen Mercy. So, while I was looking about your work in your field, you have been doing great in developing girl child in your country. So, I wanted to ask that what was your motivation, or what was that your idea of starting your foundation in your country? So, can you please let us know about that?
Okay. Why I started my foundation was the name of my foundation is the Miriam Ujunwa Girls Foundation. And Miriam Ujunwa is the name of my younger sister who we lost when she was 8 years. She was abused unaware by my parents, and before they knew what was going on, she died. So years later, I wanted to tell her story. So I named my foundation Miriam Ujunwa Girls Foundation. So the motivation behind my foundation is to honor my younger sister who we lost at a very young age at abuse. Reason I always say that sexual abuse is starts from the home. And we should always be careful with people who live with our innocent children. Relations we trust with our children, family members we live, thinking that they will be the guardian angels to the children. We should start protecting our children from those family members. So yes, she is my motivation starting my NGO.
Thank you, ma'am. Uh, I have a question for Anisha, ma'am. Probably this is the last question from my side. Anisha, ma'am, I want to ask that when a child faces sexual abuse, so they have that constant fear going on in their mind. So maybe when it, for example, when it happened in the school, so they will have fear, and due to which they will fear to go to school. They will make reasons to their parents that I don't want to go to school. I'm having fever, or I'm not feeling well. They will give constant, things like reasons for not going to school. So, how to overcome that fear of children when they face something like that, and even in the worst case when they are not sharing it to anyone. So, how can that fear be overcome?
See, when a child says it's not interested in going to school, it need not be sexual abuse per se. It can also be something like bullying. There was a case where we dealt with a 13-year-old boy, and he had enuresis, as in bedwetting. He used to wet his bed at the age of 13. And his parents thought it's a physical body problem. They took him to neurologists, nephrologists, everything. And finally, they gave up after few months, and we happened to be visiting the school for programs on safe touch and unsafe touch for kids. And that's when we saw that the child was always shabbily dressed in all our classes, and he would not comb his hair, and he would, look very untidy. And when we spoke to him, we realized that it was a case of bullying. So sometimes sexual assault or sexual safety need not start from a sexual point of view. It can start with something as simple as bullying and eve teasing, and things like this in the premises. So normally children, when they feel helpless in a particular situation, they will refuse to be a part of that situation. So if we can encourage our children to talk more, to share with us, like how Anupriya was also saying, where you create that connection with the child, where they can come and share with you on a daily basis, you will be able to identify things well in advance. Because even before things take a sexual turn, if it is normally in school, it starts with bullying, where the child feels no matter who I tell to or what happens, I cannot escape this. So that feeling it should not be, going through. So how do we combat that? Is you have everyday conversations with the child. It can be mundane also, it's fine, but everyday conversations, and a word of caution when you have those conversations. I've noticed it. When children share with you, we respond, like an adult. The expression on your face changes a lot. You spoke to this person, that's a bad boy, this is a bad girl. We start using our adult brain. Don't do that. Children have their experiences, they have their friends. Your job is to listen and say, sorry. Your job is to listen and acknowledge. Let them know that it's not their fault, whatever happens. So when you create that space, no, they will not make excuses like I have a tummy ache, I don't want to go. The real reason comes out, and that helps us deal with it.
Thank you, ma'am. So I would like to ask all of the participants that do they have any of the questions from any of our speakers? They can come up with their questions. You can raise up your hand or can put up your question in the chat box. No one has any question? I think all the speakers have answered all the queries beforehand. So, being a host, I would like to thank all of our speakers for giving all the answers in a very thoughtful and in the best possible way of the knowledge. So, at last, I would like to ask Momita ma'am and Azel ma'am to share your views regarding today's session. I would like to start with Azel ma'am.
First of all, thank you so much, all the esteemed experts out here, uh, Dr. Anisha, Queen Mercy, Anupriya. I think you all have given different perspective to the same aspect, and I think that is important as a parent, as an adult, to learn from different experts, looking at different angle, uh, and that I think this being an awareness session, I think this session would help our participants to take that first step, the second step to get knowing about how we can become comfortable with such questions or such communication conversations in the first place before even heading to our child, right? And thank you for bringing it so beautifully in each of your conversations. Thank you so much. And thank you, Diksha, for hosting it so well. You were a fabulous host, and all the parents and responsible adults, thank you for being here. And I think your presence really motivates us to put in more efforts to bring in more experts, so that I think the first step of a parent child relationship is when the parent is empowered with the right knowledge and skill set, right? That's when the parent will be happier, and that's when the child will become happier as well because the parent is happy, right? So thank you for taking that first step. Please continue learning about parenting. As one of the experts rightly said, it's a tough parent journey. I think one of the most tough journey is to be a parent, and you have enrolled yourself into it. It's a lifetime journey, so we need to be prepared. So thank you so much for being a part of it.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words. I would like Momita ma'am to share her views regarding this issue.
First of all, I completely agree with what Azel said. Everybody, all the guest speakers and the experts came up with the same, sexual child safety matter with their own different perspectives, which is going to help everybody, right? And I just want to thank specially Diksha. What a wonderful hosting, my dear. What a wonderful hosting. And this is one of the best session, I guess, till now. We are on the third session of this child safety series, and this is one of the best sessions, I must say, because all the three speakers, the hosts, were fabulous. We learned a different aspect from Dr. Anisha Mahindrakar. We learned a different aspect from Queen Mercy and Miss Anupriya. Everybody brought up the most essential topics related to child sexual safety, and these things, when it goes out in public, I guess the people, and I thank the participants who have joined us today, and they were able to witness such wisdom live. But when it goes out in public on the YouTube channel, definitely it will be shared, and I think it will reach more hearts and more people, and definitely going to help a lot of other people who were not able to join us today. But yes, indeed, I learned a lot. And the most important part is that all the insights being shared by each speaker were so relevant. And I think in some way or the other, every one of us would agree that as a child we went through something similar in our childhood. So yes, it is very much important. It's very much important to share, discuss with the kids, give 4 hugs to our children, and talk to them regularly. Again, it's not about country, because we have our one international speaker here. That means it's not only about India but also globally, that we need to bring more focus on child safety. So thank you so much, dear esteemed speakers, dear host, and our beautiful participants who have registered and stayed with us all for the entire session of 1.5 hours. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words. So, last, I would like to conclude it with a few lines. So, in the end, I would like to say that we live in a world in which we need to share responsibility. It's easy to say it's not my child, it's not my community, it's not my world, and it's not even my problem. Then there are those who see the need and respond, and they even protect too. And we need to consider these people are heroes, and we had few heroes among us. And I really believe that we will build more heroes in our community and our nation too. So with that, I would like to end up today's session. And I would really like to request every participant to turn on their cameras so that we can take up a screenshot. It would be great if everyone could turn on their cameras. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am. So, I just want to say that let's continue to build a great community, great people. So, thank you, everyone, for joining. And we'll be looking forward in the upcoming series. So, stay tuned and let's stay together to build a great community. Thank you, everyone.